All right, welcome to the final training video for Royal Family Kids Club. Getting real close here, all right? So this one is about ministering closer to home and sort of some of the impacts, some of the implications of us doing this ministry versus a camp ministry. So let's see. Kids need both structure and nurture. Club offers both. Although we hope to see our club kids do well in school, we hope to see them cultivate better family relationships, we hope to set them up well for their future. Those are all outcomes that we hope to see sort of boosted or supported by their participation in club. Ultimately, our job is just to love them in an environment that supports what they need for where they are developmentally. So again, that means we're both nurturing them, but we're also providing them structure and routine. That's part of the benefit of having a really clear club agenda, sort of an itinerary that we follow almost every month, barring a couple of special exceptions in there. But the reason that we do that is so that the kids know what to expect. Them knowing what to expect helps them kind of be more at ease and more relaxed so that they can be nurtured. So ministering closer to home. Let's see. Okay, so let's just talk through this. At camp, we get kids for a full week all at once in the middle of the summer. At club, we get kids for 3 hours at a time spread out over the school year. So it's the same mission of the ministry. We're trying to make a difference in these kids' lives. We're trying to show them the love of God. But there are some differences here. Ministering closer to home, it's just a little bit different. So, just posing you a couple of questions. How do you think that this changes the behaviors that we might see from our kids? How do you think a camper who's preparing for camp might feel as they're sort of preparing themselves to come to camp versus how a club kid might be feeling getting ready to come to club? If you think about a kid coming to camp, well, it's a big event. It's a whole week away. They're probably really pretty nervous or anxious, especially if they've never been before. It's sort of the hinge point of their whole summer. They're just looking forward to this huge week of camp. Club, there probably isn't quite that same anxiety. There's probably not that same sort of, their school year is not going to hinge on a single club meeting. While we hope that the club is something that stands out about their school year, it's not quite the same feel as how camp is to the summer. And so, again, you can just kind of start to feel that there are some differences that are going to come into play here. But the biggest thing, really, is that when you're doing club, we are going to be brought closer to the kids' real lives. So when they're at camp, they're in an isolated environment that we pretty much structure exactly how we want for that whole week of camp. There is nothing that happens during that week that's not camp, right? It's the whole week. It's just a carved out, isolated place where we just get to, it's sort of a separate world from real life. You're at camp. You're just in it, right? Club, we're just taking them for a little snippet, a little moment in time, very fleeting thing, one Saturday a month during the school year. So we're really getting these kids more sort of as they are. We're seeing them in their natural environment a little bit more. So again, there's some implications that come along with that, and that's kind of what this particular video is about. Ministering closer to home. So ministering to foster kids in the real world comes with some new challenges or opportunities, maybe. Let's see. First off, one of the big changes that you're going to notice is that there's more frequent interaction with caregivers. Drop-offs and pickups are part of every club meeting. So what that means is that you as a volunteer, especially if you're working the check-in desk or you're one of the people who are bringing kids up and down, you're going to get to know the caregivers in a way that you don't at camp. At camp, we get the checkout. Most volunteers don't even see the check-in or the checkout. Usually that's just the nurse and a couple other volunteers that sort of facilitate that. Well, at club, all the volunteers are sort of in proximity to the caregivers. And yeah, they're just more present. They're more involved. They have to do the drop-off and the pick-up every single month. So we're going to form relationships with the caregivers in a way that we don't at camp. A second thing, a child may change homes mid-year. Very rarely. I don't think that we've ever had a kid who, well, I shouldn't say ever. We have had a very rare handful of times where a kid has come to camp and then goes back to a different home. And it's a terrible thing when it happens. You don't like that. During club, it's a lot more common. And almost every year, we will have at least one kid who changes homes in the middle of the year. Again, that's sort of the benefit of club as a ministry. We are able to follow that kid, usually, if at all possible, unless they move locations like far out of Springfield. But if at all possible, we stay in touch with the caseworker, we stay in touch with the old foster family, we get in touch with the new foster family. So we're able to follow the kids and invite them to continue participating in club. But again, it's just part of the club program, and it's a sad thing. You know, it's sad when kids have to leave in the middle of camp. It's also sad when kids don't get to continue doing the club year because they moved. They don't get to choose that. It's just something that happens. So again, sometimes this is a painful loss. Sometimes this is an opportunity for us as club to kind of like, you know, show our capabilities because we can keep that kid in the program even when they move. We always try. We aren't always successful, but we always try. A child may be kept from club. And I'm sorry, you guys can hear that my voice is going. Let me have a little coffee and supplement here. Although all caregivers are asked not to use club as a reward or a punishment, some still will. So for the child application, you know, on your club commitment form, you had to say that you commit to showing up for 6 out of 8 weeks and all the other stuff. Well, for the kids, on their application form, I ask them to sort of sign saying that they understand that our desire is that club be a gift for these kids, not something that they have to earn. And so we try to ask caregivers, please do not use club as a bargaining tool or as leverage over your kids. Don't threaten them not being able to come to club or tell them that only if they're good do they get to come to club. We want them to be able to come to club every single month, even if they're having bad behavior at home. Now, that's what we ask caregivers to do. Ultimately, though, it's the caregiver gets the final say. And so there usually are a couple caregivers who may not always hold to that. And so again, there's feelings for you as a volunteer observing that happen that come with club that don't come with camp. You know, so again, that's just one of the differences, is that a child may be kept from club, whereas that wouldn't necessarily happen at camp. It couldn't really happen at camp in the same way. We may have to postpone due to weather. Sometimes life just gets in the way. Well, we always try to make up. This isn't going to be a big deal for the first few months, but after Christmas, we usually have at least one or two kind of close calls where we're kind of all waiting to see what the weather's going to do. I know a couple of years ago, we actually missed a couple clubs because it just snowed for several weeks at a time and we couldn't even postpone. We can't always postpone anyways because sometimes the church facilities are taken for the following week. So as of now, we're locked in on church facilities for the second Saturday of every month. We've kind of got that reserved. But, you know, if it's February, say, for example, and we have to postpone or we have to cancel because there's too much snow or something like that, again, we will always try to postpone to the next week and just redo it the next week. But it's not always going to be possible. Again, that's just part of the cost, part of the hurdles of ministering closer to home. And this is a big one. You may feel burnt out or your life might get in the way. This is a reality of this sort of longer term ministry, which is club. And you know, one of my jobs as the leader or as the co-director here is to help keep your eyes on the prize and help you to continue remembering why we're doing this and why it's so important and remind you of the impact that you're making and all that good stuff. But no matter what I do, you know, nonetheless, I can't be with you there, you know, in your private thoughts at your home, whispering at how good club is. You know, you have to remember that for yourself sometimes. And burnout is a real thing. It just is. There's never been a club year where I didn't sort of feel some of that burnout. And it's usually after Christmas. You know, through Christmas, there's a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. After Christmas, it usually dips down just a little bit. Usually we pick it back up by the time Easter rolls around. But yeah, there's just, it just starts to feel kind of long, or it feels Yeah, there's just going to be a Saturday in there. Like I said in that earlier video, eventually there's going to be one of these Saturdays where you just don't feel like coming. And again, what I want to remind you is that that's just kind of part of doing a ministry like this. And I hope that your commitment can carry you through even when you don't feel like it. Still show up and participate. But yeah, and again, let's not even burn out. Sometimes life just gets in the way. And again, that's why I said 6 out of 8. Life can get in the way. A couple of those times, it's okay. Try to be here as much as you can, though. Okay? Another thing, you might not think about this. The transforming effect of our ministry is more prolonged and harder to see. So again, I referenced the, when you come to camp, there is a really stark contrast between the beginning of the week and the end of the week with the kids. When you see those kids get off the bus, they look a certain way. When you see them get on the bus to leave, man, you just see life in their eyes in a way that you didn't at the start of the week. Almost always, with almost every single kid. We don't get that same transformation at Club. It's more prolonged. We get them for a shorter amount of time, and it's not as isolated a way to where they can sort of be free from the cares of the world while they're at camp. Not at Club, So Club gives us little snapshots of the child throughout the year. We get to see them develop, and we get to see them sort of going through real life in a different way than we do at camp. But sort of one of the costs of that is that we don't get to see that stark contrast like we do at camp. Again, what does that mean? Well, here's a quote that I like to remember. The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit. So again, this just brings us back to where we started with that 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 6. I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God has been making it grow. We just got to remind ourselves that even if you don't see the transformation or you don't think you see it happening, it is happening, and God is doing something. So just trust that, and that's, again, part of the challenge, is one of the things you have to remind yourself when you're ministering closer to home. Last thing to touch on here is our relationship with caregivers. I remember when I had first started volunteering with RFK, and I think it's a natural thing, but you just sort of get this negative stereotype of a foster parent. You sort of think of them as they're just in it for the money. They don't really care about the kids. You might see them be a little short with the kids at the pickup or the drop-off for camp, and you just think, oh, man, and it just breaks your heart because you sort of feel like, oh, these kids are going back into the system, and, man, it's just tough to see. And the foster parents are sort of part of that system that is so clearly broken. Or with the you get to see them in their biological homes, and again, you sort of might have some negative things that you're thinking about with them. Once I became a foster parent, I pretty quickly learned that, yeah, for one, the foster system is broken. It's not great. But a lot of that is because it's just so overwhelmed. There's too many kids. No, that's not the foster system's fault. It's not the caseworker's fault. It's not the foster parent's fault. But it's overloaded. RFK's position is that of supporting the year-round job taken on by the caregivers of these desperate children in our society. Children who we all care very much about. We work to enhance that relationship by, here's some things. So I'm going to ask you we're sort of shifting and making sure that we're thinking about caregivers in a good way. We're going to believe that every child comes from a loving, caring foster home. We're going to recognize that foster parenting is difficult and challenging, and man, is it. It is. If you've never been a foster parent, it's one of the most difficult things you'll do. It's very challenging. So we're going to appreciate them, and we're going to appreciate the opportunity to reach not just the kids, but also the foster parents. We're going to appreciate that we get to help them out, and it is a service to them, because as a foster parent, you're given oftentimes 2 days of respite per month. So if you have a kid with certain behaviors, and many foster kids do have these sort of behaviors, well, you can't just have a normal babysitter come watch your kids. They might need medications. They might, they're still wards of the state. So actually the state prohibits, your child from being under, uncertified care. In some cases, not always, but in some cases. So again, these foster parents only get 2 days max of babysitting per month, or of respite care is what it's called, per month, with specialized, certified, trained respite providers where, their home is certified to be safe for a foster child to be in. They are, certified to have the skills that they need to care for them. And so all that to say, at Club, being able to offer these foster parents a Saturday morning, just one Saturday morning a month, where they can sort of trust that their kid is taken care of. Well, it's a small thing, but it's not a small thing all at once. So, like for example, during the Christmas season, that's time for them to go and do their Christmas shopping, or just get a break or whatever. I've had caregivers come and tell me, you know what, I'm just going to take these 3 hours. I'm going to go get a pedicure. It's just like their self-care time. And so they really do appreciate it. It's a service to them. We're helping them. We're also ministering to the kids at the same time. So 2 birds, 1 stone. We're also going to expect the foster child to give a biased opinion of home life. So this is a big one. You might hear things that that our Club kids share that paint not such a great picture of their life at home. It's important to remember that these kids are biased and that they only see sort of a child's perspective of things. I remember with our former foster son, his sort of MO is that he accused every single home he was in of being abusive. Every single one. No matter how good or bad the home was, there was always an allegation of abuse. And so, again, it's important to take that seriously, but it's also important to recognize that sometimes you're not getting the full picture. So, again, hopefully we don't have any kids who are alleging abuse, because then that kind of becomes complicated, becomes messy. We would still, again, take it seriously. But even falling short of that, just, foster kids complaining about their parents, their caregivers, again, we just got to kind of take that in stride, recognize that that's kind of just part of where they're at in life right now. So our primary goal, and this is sort of last thing, it's the last slide here, guys. Our primary goal is to minister to our Club kids, but our secondary goal is to support their caregivers. You don't know what a smiling face and willing hands mean to a foster parent who feels frustrated, abandoned, and desperate to see their child succeed. So again, just sort of re-emphasizing that while, yes, we're here for the Club kids first and foremost, we hope and pray that God uses Club, our ministry, to help the caregivers too and make their life a little easier. So have that sort of attitude. Let that be your attitude as you volunteer, as you minister with us this year. With that, guys, that does it. That's all of it. We got through all the training. Good job. Well done getting through these slides. Just to remind you, if you are a volunteer and you are wanting to do Club with us, there's a couple things I need from you from here. And this is just going to be a reminder because we covered it in the first video. I need for one, I need that commitment form that I sent you the link for on Jotform. And let me just pause. I'll pull that up real quick. Okay, so yeah, here is the commitment form. I need you to fill this out. There's a link to this. If you need this link, well, for one, I'll probably include it in the email for these same videos. But shoot me an email, tag me in the Facebook group, whatever, if you need this link. This is just basically the commitment form. If you have already turned in an application for camp, you don't need to fill out a whole new application for Club. If you did not do a camp application this year, I do have to have you fill out a full volunteer application. And again, I can give that to you if necessary. So I need this form done. I need this Mentoring Club staff manual on, what is this, the 3rd page here. I need this commitment form. Again, kind of unfortunate that I named mine a commitment form and this one's called a commitment form too, but both of them, I need both of them done. I need you to attest that you've watched this training. And if you've never done Club before, there's a separate online training that comes from the national office that I'm going to have you watch too. And again, I have to send that out individually, the links for that. So be on the lookout. I should be sending that out pretty shortly after these training videos if you are one of those new Club volunteers that needs that. So keep an eye on your inbox for that. But otherwise, guys, well done. That's everything. We started from the beginning and got all the way here. So well done. Good job. And I will hope to see you in September at our first club. Very excited. Can't wait. Going to be a ton of fun. So keep an eye out for that itinerary coming out the week before club. And yeah, I'll see you soon.